Hi guys, welcome to Westmonster Uncensored. I'm Michael Heaver.
I'm Patrick Christie.
And today on the show, the Telford grooming scandal. We've got a special investigation from Westmonster we're going to be telling you about. Also, the very latest on Brexit and the Italian elections. A really big edition of Uncensored today, guys, as ever. Tell us what you think. Dive in on the comments. And if you like what you see, do go to westmonster.com/support to support us. Now, Patrick, where else to start but this Telford investigation you carried out?
Absolutely. Well, look, guys, yesterday was probably one of the most troubling days of my journalistic career. I went to Telford after news broke that it could be the scene of Britain's largest ever mass child grooming scandal. Some 1,000 girls are believed to have been raped and sexually abused over a period of 40 years by a grooming gang that has apparently operated with impunity in that area. And what I found absolutely sickened me. And I know that if you've got a heart and a conscience, it will sicken you too. And before I go into the specifics of what happened this day, I just want to make a couple of points very, very clear from my direct first-hand experience of what I found there yesterday. I do believe this is still happening. I do believe that victims are being badly let down by the government, by police. And I do believe that this is part of a wider network, an organised crime network that's going on nationwide. And that should be deeply, deeply troubling to anyone concerned. So, I mean, I might as well start from the beginning.
If we start with our first article, we've done our first article on this. You can go over to westmonster.com as ever to go and see this. Basically, Patrick, if you talk people through what this first report is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, guys, I just kind of tipped up in Telford. I parked my car up and I decided to walk around the centre. And actually, I went to a place called Wellington first, which is a small town outside Telford. So it took me about 5 minutes to walk around the town centre. This gives an idea of the scale of this place. And 5 of the first 7 people I spoke to were either victims themselves or were related to victims. That is an epidemic. And this woman that I spoke to, who obviously we won't be naming, was a victim herself. She had been raped as a child by some of the people involved in this grooming scandal. And she said, when I spoke to her, she's now homeless. She said that she was basically given a load of booze, plied with booze, shipped off to a hotel room. And when she woke up in the morning, it became obvious she'd been raped. She said, I was homeless and she was living in a bed and breakfast. I wanted to go out, so I went for a drink, and the next thing I know, it was 12 o'clock. So I was locked out of where I was staying. I was going to my mum's, but the grooming gang said that we should go with them. It was supposed to be a hotel just for me and my friend, but nobody else. But the next thing I can remember is waking up with my trousers and underwear around my ankles. That's all I can remember in the hotel room. My friend's gone, they've gone. My friend actually made out that they wouldn't do something like that. They weren't like that. But then a few weeks later, they did it to her. And this, unfortunately, is an all too familiar story. The figure that we've got here of about 1,000 girls being raped and sexually abused over a 40-year period, according to literally everyone with some direct involvement in this scandal that I spoke to yesterday, that figure is way off the mark. And it has been going on for so long. But to give you guys an idea of how deep this problem lies, when I went there yesterday, I parked my car up in a car park. I'd never been to this place before. Parked up in a car park, walked out, there's like an open-air market thing going on. The very first person I speak to, I said, look, sorry, it's a difficult topic to talk about. I'm here to get some info on the child grooming gangs. He looks me in the eye and says, can I talk to you around here for a minute? He says, yeah, my daughter's being groomed currently. So this is still happening. And he gave me a horrific account of what's been happening to her. The second person I spoke to said, actually, my sister was raped. The third one, yeah, I actually went to school with someone who was repeatedly raped. In fact, she was one of the main victims out of all this. As I've said to you then, I've spoken to another victim directly. I spoke to a teacher at a local school who said she knows for a fact that girls are still being groomed at that school. I spoke to a student at a local college who said she is in a class with someone who's being groomed. And this is the key point now. This is the most sickening thing for me of the day before we go into some of your interaction, guys. There is a girl who was the daughter, unfortunately, of one of these victims. Now, her mum was actually killed by the grooming gang. She is now old enough to be in one of the colleges in the area. And in that girl's class, in that college, are people who are being groomed by the same gang that were grooming her mother. That is how sickening and depraved this is in that area. So that's where we are, basically, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely shocking stuff, guys. I mean, this whole Telford grooming scandal, as I say, Patrick went there yesterday. spent the day there, spoke to many people who, you know, overwhelmingly, not everyone, but overwhelmingly either knew someone directly or had been involved directly in grooming. This is an epidemic, and of course the worrying thing is this isn't an isolated incident. This isn't one town. Whether you talk about Rotherham, whether you talk about a myriad of other towns, we've seen grooming going on. And what we're going to be doing at Westmonster, guys, you're going to see a lot more of this. We're actually going to be going into more of these communities and finding out whether this is going on now, whether it's gone on in the past and been covered up or not been covered, or not, you know, it's not been put out there. Because as far as we can see, this is not just a local epidemic or regional, this is now a national epidemic. Town after town after town of young girls being groomed, being sexually abused. A harrowing account. We did the story on Westmonster.com yesterday of a young girl she was on ITV's Good Morning Britain, basically talking about how her day, and imagine this, guys, her day became, her life became every day whirlwind of rape, every day. And this is going on now in our country. This is what we're going to be covering, guys. As ever, tell us what you think. We're going to read out some comments now. Sharon saying people's heads need to roll for not acting to protect these girls from these heinous crimes.
Alexander Smith just saying this is all just the tip of the iceberg, and I'm very sorry to have to agree with you there, Alexander. I do think it probably is. We have seen, as Michael said, incidents in Rotherham, Rochdale, in Oxford, in Derby. I think there was one in Stratford recently, and obviously around the Telford area. And the scale of the problem, you know, this is a small area I went to yesterday, so it's a small part.
Well, you were shocked, weren't you, frankly, by how little time you have to spend in Telford to find someone. And to find multiple people who all know this is going on and have some sort of personal story to tell.
There was a bloke, for example, that I spoke to, and we're going to be... Guys, one thing I just want to make clear before I go into this is that the reason I could go there is because of all the support that you guys have given us, basically. Your donations to Westmonster have helped pay for me to go there. They're going to pay in the future for us to go around and bring you more of this stuff. So please do keep supporting us. I just want to say thank you very much, because I think it's important to get out there. But look, so yesterday there was one bloke that I spoke to who said he's planning on having another child with his partner. He says if he has a daughter, he's going to move away because she will be groomed. That's the scale of this problem. He said that if you go to nightclubs in that area, what you will see is underage girls being freely allowed in, so you know they're underage. You will then see a group of adult men, like older men, middle-aged men, sat at the back of these nightclubs, just waiting until about 3 o'clock in the morning when these girls can't stand up, and then they take them away. Now, how can this be happening with such impunity in an area where it's well known that this has been a problem for around 4 decades? This is monumentally bad.
Yeah, we've got Orovoso, I think I got the name right there, on Twitter saying, is Telford's MP doing anything about this? Now, to be fair, Lucy Allen, the local MP, we've been following what she's been doing. We've got the story there on Westmonster.com. She has been speaking out on this. I'll just give you really harrowing quotes from her. Basically, she's spoken in Westminster Hall yesterday saying, these young girls are too often white and working class and have multiple vulnerabilities. That is why the perpetrators are targeting that, and why so often miscasters bring it on themselves as indulging in risky behaviour, as being promiscuous and somehow being to blame for what is happening to them.
That's key theme.
In their own minds, they often internalise the sense that they are somehow at fault. She also said, how did it happen? Why are our young girls being traded for sex in what has become a routine way? Whether it is from takeaways, taxis or betting shops, it's happening on our streets.
Well look guys,
this is reality for people growing up in our country.
Absolutely, just because we've just had a lot of people join now, we're up to around 700 live viewers, so thank you very much guys. I'm just going to recap on what I said at the start. Yesterday I went to Telford, I went to have a look firsthand at the grooming scandal that's been going on there, and basically the first 5 of the first 7 people I spoke to were either victims themselves, this is at random that I stopped people in the street, were either victims themselves or directly related to victims. And the stories that I heard were absolutely horrific. We have got one on Westmonster that we've just seen, I think you can see on your screen now, from a victim. She was a direct victim.
There's going to be more of these throughout the week, guys, so do go back to Westmonster.com where we're going to be reporting all of this in full. But yeah,
absolutely. She's basically just talks about how she was plied with alcohol, and raped, treated like a piece of meat by these grooming gangs. She said the scale of the problem is monumental. She also criticised the police, saying it took them 2 to 3 years to actually respond to her claim. And this is, I just want to pick up, guys, there were more people that I spoke to there. One guy says his daughter's currently being groomed. I spoke to teachers at local schools and colleges who are saying this is still happening. Students at those schools and colleges saying it's still happening. And for those of you just joining, the most sickening story of the day for me was the fact that there was the daughter of one of the victims who was actually killed by this grooming gang. She is now of age to be at college, and in that girl's circle of friends or classmates at college, some of those people are being groomed by the same network that groomed her mother. This is how horrendous this is.
Julie on Facebook says, shame on the BBC for burying this. Now, we put actually a lot of pressure on the BBC because this was not being really reported to the level that we thought it deserved. We put a lot of pressure on you guys, retweeted a lot of our stuff, so thank you very much. You shared it. We put the pressure on the BBC, and in the end, actually, the BBC did put this story far higher up the agenda than they had done so far. Glyn saying, keep speaking out. Well, thank you very much, Glyn. If you support what we're doing, though, please help us. Go to westmonster.com/support. We want to do a lot more of these reports. We want to get out there in the country. We want to speak to people. And we want to deliver the truth of what is going on in this country. No matter how difficult it is, how upsetting it is, how heinous it is, we have to speak to these people. We have to find out what is going on in our country and how this has been allowed to happen. Town after town, life after life ruined. How has this been able to happen in our country?
Well, I asked these people that I was speaking to yesterday, look, you know, what do you make of the police response and the government's response? Obviously, they weren't best pleased because it doesn't seem like too, I mean, it's still happening, isn't it? But the key thing kept coming up again and again. And it really made me think last night. They were saying, look, we do think that there's been a lack of action on this because people are afraid of coming across as being seen as racist. Because they're afraid if the police challenge it or the government challenges it, they will be branded as racist. And that's clearly a massive, massive problem, isn't it? That's clearly a massive issue because if that is the case, then it's not going to get solved, is it? And the first gentleman that I spoke to there, whose daughter was currently being groomed, he was an Indian chap, and he basically spoke to me and pulled me to one side, actually, and said to me, look, can you do me a favour? And these are his words. I've got these on record. He said, look, can you not call them Asian grooming gangs? Because he's bracketed as Asian. And he said, look, I'm Indian, and it's not me doing this, he said, and every single person I spoke to, and I want to know what your opinions are on this, guys, and because it is, I can only go off what people have told me. I can only go off the facts that I've seen throughout the day and from what people have said, and literally every single person that I've had here quoted on record is saying the same thing, that this isn't so much the Asian problem at all. It seems to be within a certain subsect of South Asians and Pakistanis who seem to be responsible for this. Now, I'm not going to go any deeper than that, but I just wanted to highlight, we get a lot of people saying, why aren't you calling it what it is? Or then you also get a lot of people saying, oh, you're being racist. It's like, well, here are the facts.
We're here to report the facts of what people are saying.
This is it,
That's, and this, and as I say, it's absolutely harrowing to think that in such a relatively short space of time, so many people had personal stories, personal experiences of this going on. And as you're going to see throughout the week, you'll be able to read the reports on exactly what people said to Patrick. I mean, it is absolutely extraordinary.
I can only tell you what they've told me.
Absolutely sickening. But look, lots of you saying, well done, lads. Thank you very much for your support. If you're enjoying this podcast, you know, not a nice issue, but we don't duck anything here at Westmonster, guys. This is all about delving into the issues that we think are most important, and what could be more important than the safety of our children, of our families, of our communities, of people that you know that we live with. And the fact that this is going on in our country now is absolutely appalling and a damning indictment of what has gone wrong, frankly.
Absolutely. And one of the key elements of this, again, is the soft justice thing. Now, here at Westmonster, as you will know if you're a regular viewer of this show, we're big on the fact that we need to stamp out soft justice. We see it with knife crime, with gun crime, people getting puny sentences. They come out, they re-offend, it's not a deterrent. Now, the victim here that I spoke to, who we're calling Sophie, it's not her real name, she said, and this is a quote from her, she said she was raped by one of the ringleaders. She said, he's out now, and it's like he didn't even serve half his sentence. I'm disgusted. It's my life they've ruined, and they haven't been punished at all. It needs speaking about. These people need longer sentences. They need punishing a lot more. Police need to look into it more, because they didn't look into it at all with me. Worst of all, she says, it's still happening.
Sickeningly, guys, you'll have seen, again, if you're a regular watcher of Uncensored, remember, it's Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, 1 o'clock on those 3 days, UK time. You'll remember, we've done a lot on stabbings, right? And for me, there's a striking parallel here, which is that you've got poor young men in deprived areas, especially it happens a lot in London, almost on a weekly basis now, being stabbed to death. There was a young guy I spoke to ITV the other day that said, I don't want to grow up around here. In the last few months, there's been 3 people stabbed on one road in London. And I always just get the feeling that the lack of outrage, the lack of action, frankly, is because these people live in deprived areas. It's out of sight, out of mind for sections of the media, for some politicians. And I think the striking parallels here of people growing up in a dangerous country, frankly, where people are being abused and hurt and even killed at a completely unacceptable level, who basically feel like, or in many ways have been, abandoned by the authorities and badly let down by the people that should be protecting our young people growing up in this country.
I mean, there's a case in point here. So from the incidents that we know about, obviously Rotherham, Rochdale, Derby, Oxford, this one now in Telford, there's one in Newcastle, there's been one in Stratford. So just from the number of victims that we know about, and these, it tops 3,000 girls. Many of them, well, pretty much all of them, aged between 11 and 16 at the time of their abuse. Now, what I can't get my head around with this is that if 3,000 girls had all been diagnosed with the same particular type of illness, say there was a new strain of flu or particular type of cancer, for example, the government would be doing everything they could to stamp this out. The government and politicians would be putting in massive measures to sort this out, to make sure that no more girls had to suffer in this way. Why isn't this happening now? This is an epidemic level. This is thousands of girls, and these are just the ones we know about. There's obviously more than this happening across the country, and there's not the type of action that's needed to sort this out. And I find that completely hypocritical and wrong.
And again, credit's where it's due. Lucy Allen, who's the MP for Telford, has been standing up. She's been campaigning on this. She said that she wanted to mention something else as well, which is that there had been an early release from prison of a ringleader of grooming in Telford who was sentenced to 22 years, 14 years in custody and 8 years on licence, and he was released only 5 years after the trial. And she says that caused a lot of shock, fear and anxiety among the people brave enough to come forward to give evidence, and the victim contact scheme let them down. And yet again in this country, whether you talk about this case, whether you talk about even the case with the black cab rapist, is it not the case that time and time again now this sort of soft justice system that we've got is letting down victims who have life sentences? You would have spoken to him, Patrick, the effect that this must have on you psychologically, the way it must change your life to be groomed and to be systematically abused like this is a life sentence in itself, is it not? And
if at the end of the day, if there's a few points here on this, if you as a victim know that what must be the worst kind of physical abuse, really, I imagine, can happen to you, you can go to the authorities, go through the proper channels and report it, wait years for any kind of comeback on it, and then when they do get punished and you think, okay, justice has been served, they get out in less than half a sentence. What kind of message must that be sending to the victims who potentially have to walk past their attackers in the street just years after their depraved abuse?
Now, Caroline Lucas had something to say, the Green Party, I think we've got a tweet there. And Patrick, I know this absolutely disgusted you when you saw it.
Well, it did.
And she tweeted, and to leave.eu and Aaron Banks and others trying to whip up racial hatred after horrific events in Telford, you should be utterly ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, so I'd like to make a point here on this. I don't know if anyone's trying to whip up racial hatred because of it. I'm certainly not. We're not here at Westmonster. We're dealing with the facts. And I would ask Caroline...
None of these people are. The fact is everyone's highlighting what's going on here on a factual basis. Patrick's gone down to Telford, and we're sick and tired, frankly, of seeing this race card pulled when people are trying to talk about systematic child abuse.
Because actually, Caroline, this is the problem, isn't it? You are the problem in this sense now, because of this playing the race card type thing, it stops people from actually talking about the issue. And have you ever been to Telford, Caroline? Have you been and spoken to the people that I spoke to? I would say to you, if you went just now, if you were dropped into the middle of Telford now, you would probably have exactly the same experience that I had, because it was so easy for me yesterday to go in and just speak to all these people. So if you actually went and you were told the same thing over and over again about maybe where this problem's coming from, how widespread it is and what's being done about it, there's no way whatsoever that you could accuse me or indeed anyone else of trying to whip up racial hatred. I'm not. What I want to happen is for this depraved national scandal to go away, to be tackled and stopped. That's all I'm trying to do.
At the end of the day, all we should want is for this issue to be dealt with properly, not swept under the carpet, and for young girls and young men, for that matter, to be protected. And that has to happen. And, if it upsets a few people because it's not politically correct and it's a very awkward subject and it's not something they particularly want to talk about, that's tough. But we at Westmonster are going to keep banging on about this now, guys, because I suspect we've seen it in multiple towns already. Is this going on in other towns we don't know about? Is it still going on in places like Rotherham? We're determined to find out.
There's an interesting element to this as well, isn't there? Is, look, this is no secret now. As Michael said, it's happening up and down. It seems to be happening up and down the country. And so when you total up the amount of girls that are falling victim to this horrific crime, it was around 3,000 of them. I mean, the reality is probably more. where is the outrage from a load of sections of society here? You know, we do see now in this age...
Well, we had to battle, felt like we had to battle to get the BBC to cover it properly on the website.
Yeah.
It was no way, it wasn't in the headlines at all.
I had a phone conversation with their press office and just said, look, you know, I'm a bit confused, guys, about why this isn't on your homepage. It's potentially the largest scale grooming scandal this country's ever seen. And they had at the time a story about how to feed your birds on there. And they said to me, oh, well, that's our most read story. I said, yeah, but this could be your most read story if you bothered to put it on your homepage. And eventually they did. They did do it after we'd phoned them and after we called them. And, you know, if you're seeing a lot of protests up and down the country now about a lot of issues, you know, a huge amount of issues, where are some of the more militant elements of society, the people that claim to be really in favour of, for example, women's rights and things like that? Where are you in Telford? Where are you in Rotherham? Where are you in Rochdale, in Oxford, in Derby, in Newcastle, wherever else is going on up and down the country? You know, just because it's a difficult issue to get your head around maybe, and just because it is a difficult topic to maybe talk about openly, because the root causes of this are mired in controversy, doesn't mean you should stop doing it. You know, it really, that's weakness for me, that's weakness.
As I say, guys, lots more reports on what Patrick found and what people said in Telford throughout the week. So do visit westmonster.com. Lots of you saying great work and giving us your support. Thank you very much.
It's because of you guys, though, that we're doing this.
Absolutely.
Michael's going to say, yeah.
If you do support what we do, please do give us a like, give us a retweet, and visit westmonster.com/support. It's for your support that we're able to do what we're doing and carry out more of these investigations into what's going on across the country. We're going to move topics now, and we're going to talk about Brexit.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but when you went to the polls, I know when you go and vote Leave, did you really think that we'd be paying money to the European Union into the 2060s? Because that is what's now on the table. I mean, I shouldn't laugh really. The Office of Budget Responsibility have basically shown that the government's plan is going to see this Brexit bill that's been paid, 37.1 billion, some of it's not going to be paid off until 2064.
Yeah.
So the country's potentially going to be in a position where, for decades to come, we're still handing money over to the European Union. I mean, I think, who made that call?
Well, absolutely. It's interesting, isn't it? You know, if you go out for a nice meal, maybe with your partner, and the bill comes, and you think, oh, that's all right. And then they say, actually, no, sorry, so you're going to be paying this off until 2064. I think you'd have a word to say about that. That's a lot of pots to wash, isn't it? Before you can, before your time's up and you can go home. I mean, this just seem a little bit ridiculous, really, because, of course, that means we are intrinsically tied to the European Union for years and years and years to come, which is, I suppose, a worry maybe for anyone who voted Brexit. But we want to know, of course, what your opinions are on this. Pile in with your comments. We've had some great interaction so far, so please keep it coming.
Yeah, guys, let us know. Do you think we should walk away? Of course, if there's no deal, there's no Brexit bill. Do you think that this money, you know, should be potentially cut? Do you think Theresa May's doing the right thing by paying this money to get a deal? What do you think about the European Union's behaviour in these negotiations? We saw from a poll that around 2/3 of Brits now, regardless of whether they voted Leave or Remain, actually think the EU's trying to bully the UK, which isn't going to go down very well. And actually, the British government should take note of them.
Kerry's piled in. Haven't we only just paid off World War II? Let's give the EU the bill for that. Strong as ever there. Gary Mackin, saying no deal, no pay.
Rob, walk away, head held high. What else have we got?
Well, we had someone here, Martin...
Keep up the great work for Steve. Thank you very much for your support.
Martin Bolton just saying, why haven't you made Russia the main story, which is interesting. We have got a few comments on that. We have actually got it as a leading article on our website, and frankly, I believe that instead of dealing with rampant speculation, one of the main topics that we should be covering today is the systematic child abuse going on right across the country.
And when we have covered it, get your facts right, because we actually have just done a story on that, which is that Prime Minister Theresa May has announced, I think it's 23 Russian diplomats have a week to leave the country. So that's on our website now. Back to
Brexit though. Harrison Hall's just saying the EU is trying to mug us off. We should just leave and walk away. Thank you very much, Harrison, for being on the show.
Just leave, walk away, says Mary. Walk away, said Richard. There's definitely, I mean, Brexiteers, let me know what you think about it. There's definitely a bubbling away, isn't there? I think people have been quite patient, and now that patience is starting to turn into a little bit of anger. You know, you hear about a Brexit bill into the 2060s. You hear about the EU making hardline demands on things like Northern Ireland and so on and so on and so on. Is a deal going to be done? Are we being led up the garden path? Is the money going to be worth it in some of your eyes? Let us know what you think about this. But I do think the whole idea of the payments gone on to the 2060s is going to cause quite a bit of anger, is it not?
Here we go. Well, Archie McIlhatton is enraged. He says, just get us out. Stop trying to subvert democratic process that our forefathers even went to war for. Interesting there.
Nigel Farage, again, you can go and see this on westmonster.com. gave a speech in the European Parliament, one of those trademark speeches that always seem to hit the right spot. He said, Mrs. May, we did not vote for a transition period. We voted to leave this organisation. We voted to leave the customs union. We voted to leave the single market. So please, Mrs. May, at this summit next week, do what Trump has done. Stand strong against the European Commission, against the unelected bullies. And Nigel finished off by saying, it was pretty obvious the game is up with the EU anyway, after the Italian election result. So she'll be doing not just the British people a favour, but the whole of Europe too. And it's certainly something we've been tracking on Westmonster, guys, this spread of Euroscepticism across Europe. I mean, it's like wildfire.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it doesn't get the coverage I think it deserves. You look at sort of the AfD in Germany, an anti-mass migration, anti-Euro party up in the polls.
I mean, Italy's a big one recently.
We're going to go, Italy in a minute.
Yeah, we'll go to
Italy in a minute. But, you know, you look at Austria now, Eurosceptic forces in charge there. It's very interesting. You shouldn't look at Brexit in isolation, guys. There's massive political change sweeping right through Europe.
Tying in on that, Chris Southern has just said, I don't think we'll have the EU in 5 years' time. I think 5 years might be a little bit ambitious, but we might not be far off because, of course, as Michael's rightly pointed out, Euroscepticism does seem to be sweeping across the continent. How long could the EU survive, basically, as a collection of states that are very sceptical about its existence? It's interesting. Guys, just a quick point for me. We're holding way up above 600 live viewers here for us, which is great. We were up to 1,000 before. Please do give us a like and a share, and make sure you do come back Monday, Wednesday and Fridays at 1 p.m. We would love to see you again. But for now, keep your comments piling in.
Patricia with a very lovely comment saying, you're so refreshing. Thank you for highlighting the truth. Hope people are waking up. Well, thank you very much. And if you would like to support us, again, I'll say go to westmonster.com/support. Lots of you have supported us. It's because of you that we can do, you know, go to places like Telford. It's because of you we can do these shows. We want to do more shows. We want to do more stories, but we need your support. Go to westmonster.com/support and chip in and help us out. And of course, we're back Friday, same time, same place, 1 o'clock. But before we go, because we like to leave things on an upbeat note.
Someone's just asked. Someone just asked about Italy. Someone's just got into can you, Peter Jinks, can you give us an update on Italy? Well, ask and you shall receive, Peter.
You've read our minds there, old boy, because we've got all your Italian coverage right here at Westmonster. If we go to the story now, you'll see the leaders of 5-Star and Lega. Now, you'll remember, these are really the two big winners from the election. You had 5-Star, the 5-Star movement, which is basically an anti-establishment party, and Lega, which is an anti-mass migration party. Both came out and did very well in the election. And it's very interesting, when you ask Italians now in their latest opinion poll, who do they regard to be the most trustworthy leader? Well, number one, you've got Di Maio, who is the 5-Star leader, and number two, you've got Salvini. It's a follow-up from another poll that was done, that actually when you asked the Italian people what their favourite combination, their favourite coalition government would be, it was a combination of 5-Star and Lega. Now, old Juncker and his mates, his chums over there in Brussels, they're going to be having sleepless nights over this one, guys, because let me tell you, these two forces put together running Italy is going to be quite the spectacle indeed. Salvini, and we'll go to him in a minute, we've got the story up there. This is a guy who, you know, normally when you see sort of semi-Eurosceptic politicians do well in elections and they're close to some position of power, you see them water down their Eurosceptic credentials, that they back off a bit. This guy is doubling down. We'll put it up for you there on the website. You can go and have a look. It's Lega Salvini basically saying the euro is the wrong currency and we are working on a plan B. He's basically said he's willing to ignore EU rules on the economy if he feels fit. And he also said, and I think a lot of you guys will agree with this, he accused journalists of pumping out the propaganda of the European Union.
Fantastic.
So there to man, potentially Italy's next Prime Minister. We'll have to see how the negotiations go. And by the way, he had a cheeky little picture of Nigel Farage yesterday as well.
Absolutely.
So, you know, the Italian election results, just to update you, the Italian people see the leaders of the anti-mass migration, anti-establishment parties as the most trustworthy. They're the most popular combination. I hope that is the coalition we see in Italy, because let me tell you, it would be a marker for big political change in the European Union.
Yeah, people are saying good night to the EU. There's comments coming in as ever. Alexander Smith saying Juncker's crying into his wine glass. Excellent, Alexander. Thank you very much. And
the walls are closing in on the Brussels fat cat, says News.
Absolutely. We've had a lot of people just posting the Italian flag, so a lot of you are obviously very happy about what's going on in Italy.
Mady saying well done and congratulations for dealing with issues that the mainstream media refuse to. Shocking times. Look, it's very clear what we do on Westminster, guys. We report the facts. We don't go off on some sort of weird tangent, and what we're about is credible news that's going out there. We don't shirk anything, we don't duck anything. but we report the facts as they are, what people are saying on the ground. And if people are so disconnected from reality and they find these things so hard that they want to dispute what Patrick has said, they want to try and pretend that people in Telford aren't saying that that isn't the state of play, then maybe they should go down there themselves, guys. Maybe they should go and speak to these people themselves if that's the case.
And just following up on that, just before we go, I mean, I was actually very, very saddened to see the head of police, Westmonster Police, has come out apparently last night and said that he thinks that the child grooming scandal is being sensationalised. Now, that is actually the problem, isn't it? The fact that you've got a police officer there who's the head of the police, supposed to be tackling this problem, is seemingly refusing to accept the scale of it. I am going to spend later today just some time trying to get in touch with that person and try and set up an interview, because actually I actually think, ironically, for a police officer, that's pretty criminal what he's just said there.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Give us a retweet, give us a like, go to westmonster.com/support and help us out. Help us grow. We'll be back on Friday, 1 o'clock, same time, same place. We'll see you then. Have a great week.
Take care, guys.